I just got back from Funko Hollywood and I'm sharing my experience right now. Hey, what's going on YouTube? Popmaster here. Hope you all are doing well. And as you may have heard or seen, I recently returned from a 2-day trip to Funko's Hollywood store. And I wanted to talk about my experience with the store itself, as well as the Pop People activity you can do there where you make your own personal Funko Pop. Starting out with the store, I first visited there on a Friday afternoon. I arrived in LA at around 11, checked into our hotel, and then caught an Uber to the store, arriving at around 12:30 or so. When we first got there, the line was enormous, almost 2 blocks long. I was pretty shocked to see this, as during my previous trips to the Funko HQ in Everett, there were no lines whatsoever to enter the store, even when we arrived at opening time on a Saturday morning, presumably the busiest time of the entire week. It took almost 2 hours to get in, as the line seemed to move in chunks versus one person entering in at a time. Part of the problem was that they were dropping 2 exclusives on the day we were there: Metallic Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Iron Patriot from Avengers. Because of that, I assume that resellers and collectors alike were out there in full force and had a pretty big incentive to show up to the store on that particular day. Having to wait in line just to enter Funko Hollywood was probably the worst part of the trip, to be honest. 2 hours in the hot LA sun? Brutal. Once we got inside, however, I was absolutely blown away by everything I saw. Funko Hollywood itself is 2 to 3 times bigger than Funko HQ in Everett, creating a deeper and more engaging experience than the Funko HQ could ever offer. Right on the entry point, there's even a real waterfall in the store featuring some of the Black Panther characters. Not to mention, the entire store was swarming with Funko Pops everywhere you went. As you walk through the store, they have these themed sections based around certain fandoms, complete with decorations, photo ops, and of course, Funko Pops. Some of my favorite sections included Star Wars, obviously, the ad icons, and DC. Adding to the immersion factor was the theme music that was playing in each of the sections. The Star Wars section was playing the Imperial March and Cantina Band, while the DC section was playing that classic Superman theme, you know, that da 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 da. The music really made you feel like you were there. That extra immersion made me really appreciate going to the store that much more. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I was really impressed with both the quality and the quantity of photo ops Funko Hollywood had, with life-size Funko Pops and mystery minis. Sure, Funko HQ had a few, but Hollywood has them everywhere, and they're much more dynamic and interactive. For example, you can actually sit in Rick's ship from Rick and Morty, or sit in a throne surrounded by Disney villains such as Maleficent and Hades. Each photo op clearly has thought put behind it, and it shows when you arrive at the store and take your photos. I kind of hate ending this part of the video on a downer, but something that really detracted from my overall experience at Funko Hollywood was just the mood of the store and the surrounding neighborhood, for lack of a better term. Again, this isn't exactly Funko's fault, but the area surrounding Funko Hollywood isn't the nicest of places, to say the least. The area was surrounded by homeless people, and a plethora of security guards and police surrounded both Funko Hollywood and the surrounding stores, presumably to discourage theft, which I totally get, by the way. I never felt in danger or afraid or anything like that, but I certainly didn't feel welcome either. Even though I wasn't doing anything wrong or breaking any rules, I simply felt intimidated. Adding to that negative feeling was the utter lack of personality from those in line. I tried striking up conversations with people around me, but they just weren't too interested, which is kind of a bummer. I also noticed plenty of flippers lining up as well for the exclusives, which I'm not upset at for reasons I'll articulate later, but many of them were bringing along their young kids who clearly had zero interest in Funko Pops, just so they could get more of the Iron Patriot and Aang exclusives dropping that day, because you only get 2 per person, so by bringing their kid, they could get 4 Pops instead of 2. That move really crossed a line in my eyes, and even though I didn't really want the Pops in the first place, those people were essentially stealing those exclusives from people who actually wanted them. Shame on you. So, that about sums up my thoughts on the Funko Hollywood store. Now let's talk about my experience with Pop People, the activity at Funko Hollywood where you can actually make your own personal customized Funko Pop. We arrived at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning to do Pop People, arriving about an hour before the store employees said to get there, just to be safe. There were about 30 people ahead of us in line, and the first 75 or so people in line got to make their own Funko Pops. At around 9:30, an employee came out, asked for our information, and told us we were 6th in line for Pop People that day. Pretty good. And after about 20 minutes perusing around the store, we were called up to make our own pops. I was planning to make a full-on video at the actual Pop People stand going through the whole process, but you only had 10 minutes to go through the entire thing from conception to reality, which was a little bit quick and really detracted from the experience was it just felt really rushed. More on that in just a second. As I was just talking about, the whole process was just really rushed since you only had 10 minutes to go in there, and since I was trying to make 4 pops, I made some design choices I would have altered if I had more time. I was also surprised at the vast inequalities when it came to selections for different parts of your pop. They only had 4 skin tones to choose from, which were white, what I can only describe as sunburned, and 2 darker tones. They had a decent selection of facial hair and glasses, with about 7 options for each one, but almost no hats to choose from. Pretty disappointing in my opinion. Another really weird thing with the overall design was that all the bottoms with shorts came with flip-flops. There were no shorts bottoms that came with shoes. If you wanted your pops to have shoes, you had to get pants. Also, the hair was pretty limited as well, with only 5 or 6 colors and about the same number of hairstyles for each color. Several years into the existence of Pop People, I expected the selection to be much more fleshed out than it actually was. One area of strength, however, was the accessories. They had so many to choose from, ranging from golf clubs to cash to ice cream scoopers. That was the area where your character's personality could really shine through. I only wish that same level of detail seen in the accessories was brought over to other parts of the system, like the hair and the skin tones. As a result of the limited options, I had pops that either looked identical to the people I was trying to represent, or nothing like them. My own pop and my sister's pop looked great, whereas my dad's, not so much. Overall, I had a fantastic experience at both Funko Hollywood and the Pop People, although I wish the Pop People had a few more options, especially on areas like the hair and the skin tone. It was still really fun, and I hope you guys will have seen or will see the video of me talking about all the pops I got from there. And also the store itself, there's just so much going on in there. I loved it, despite my minor gripes with it. But thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.